Well, hi, everyone. We are here on the Found Humanity podcast. We're back, and it's been a minute since we've done this. But um, what brought me back today was my friend Gwen, who I met through a container with BC Cerna and Chaz Bademan, who are two creators that are very heart centered. And we've just signed up for this thing and have been posting more than we have in the past. And it's been this really cool journey for everyone in the container, and we've had met so many cool people through it. But Gwen, it's an honor to have met you and to have you here on the podcast today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Is it all right with you if I go ahead and just read your little intro?
Go for it.
Okay, sweet. Today we're joined by Gwen, who is an embodiment coach who guides mothers into living their truth by embracing their humanity and claiming their divinity, which feels so aligned for the Found Humanity podcast. Her work moves beyond mindset and traditional personal development and into the deeper reclamation of self, where separation dissolves and a woman returns to her own inner authority, wisdom, and power. Her work has supported mothers around the world in this process. Gwen creates spaces where truth is no longer something we search for, but something we stand in, where the body, the voice, and the deeper knowing within come back into alignment, allowing life to be led from a place of clarity, devotion, and integrity. Through her connecting consciously method, she supports mothers in creating what they deeply desire from a place of wholeness, where there is no longer a divide between their inner world and the life they are living, so they can lead their lives, relationships, and families from a place of grounded self trust. She's a mother of three and a wife, originally from Canada, who had her children in Australia before moving to the United States. After traveling the United States for a year, she now lives in the Puget Sound area outside of Seattle, where her family is building their home on 10 acres. Her work is a call into embodiment, into leadership, and into a way of living where truth is not just known, but lived. So,
Mm.
welcome, Gwen. Glad to have you. It's an honor to have
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I would love to just start off with your story. And also, before we dive into your story, I would love if you just want to give the listeners an idea of what they can expect from this conversation and what you're all about before you dive into your story.
Hmm. From this conversation, I think just a deepening of awareness
Mm,
uh, for each of the listeners. I think that stories hold so much power. And my hope is that through sharing my story, that it will shift things within each listener
mm,
towards uh, an awakening, a deepening of awakening,
mm,
and really that coming home to
mm,
themselves. And then a little bit about me. I guess my work is really in understanding the subconscious mind, understanding how we create. And I think that it's the blend of many religious texts and what's happened, religion has said for many years, and then also with truth that is underlying the manifestation, you know, spiritual communities that are now taking, a lot more presence online. And I think it's just the blend of both of those and finding truth in all of it. So
mm,
I think that's where my specialty is. And I would also say I'm always game for a shadow journey and
mm.
going into the depths. So I will always bring that to my stories as well. So I'm sure something from the darkness will be brought up in this conversation.
And we welcome it all, and I'll mess
Yes.
up and share ugly parts of my story maybe too. So, love
You're
that
not
you're
messing
open.
up by sharing it. We
Yeah, that's
need
the whole
all of
point,
it.
I think, is to just
Mhm.
let it be what it is. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm excited to learn from you today. Um,
Mm.
and you also said something. This is one more rabbit trail before I ask about your story, but one thing you mentioned is the subconscious mind and how to create all things creation. And I think for my audience, or even just me, when I hear the term creation, it seems a little bit vague. Um,
Mhm.
because we all create, like we can all take a pencil and draw on a piece of paper and do these little, we can like take Play-Doh and form it into something. But I think and correct me if I'm wrong here, but when you're talking about creation, you're talking about it as a divine being or a divine human. Because you immediately then went into sharing about the different religious traditions or spiritual traditions. So could you expound upon what you mean by creation before we dive into your story?
Mm. What I meant with the subconscious mind and the creative process is
Mm,
how we create in each and every moment. And so understanding the subconscious mind is a huge aspect of that.
mm,
And there is a divine intelligence that I believe, and it's the source that's within us. I believe that is a source that is within each of us, and all around us. And so I think that when we're talking about different types of religion, I think we're all actually talking about the same thing.
mm,
And my focus is to remove the boxes that have been placed on people of this is how we access this power. This is how we access God. This is how the universe works. I think that, each religion, we've fought for thousands of years over who's right, and I think that each religion has many different truths that are underlying um, what they believe. But I think that when we can look at all religions and spirituality, there are similarities in all of them, and we're all really saying the same thing. And it comes back to, I think, love.
mm.
Um, yeah. So does that help a little
It
bit?
does. It sure does. And I can't wait to dive more into that. And I imagine my plan is, at least, and it could change, is to talk about that more towards the end, because I
Mhm.
want to contextualize that conversation within your life and your experiences. So, yeah, stick around for that if anyone's interested, or just hit
Mm.
fast forward. But yeah, I'd love to just invite you to share whatever you'd like to share about what brought you to this place that you're at today. And I know that motherhood and becoming a mother was a big part of your story. So, and it was also, yeah, I'll just let you take it. Yeah, how would you like to share about
Okay.
that?
Uh, I feel like I've lived so many different lives. And I think that that is also part of the, spiritual journey, is that it's a death and rebirth. And I feel like I have been doing that repetitively for a long time now. I left Canada when I was 22. And up until that point, I'd always wanted to be a teacher. And I had this deep calling that most people would just like shake their head at, but I felt like I was here to change the world.
Mm,
From as early as I could remember, that was what I was here to do, and I had this very clear mission that the children are here to change the world, and if I can support the children, or that I'm supposed to support the children, and that's how we change the world.
mm,
And so, becoming a teacher was very important to me, and so 22, I left for Australia, got my master's in teaching, and was in the system. And it's funny that when I was learning how to be a teacher, it was the first time I was like, this is not for me.
mm,
And so then I got into the classroom and I was working with the kids. And that was when I was like, okay, this is what I'm here to do. And so I did that for 8 years, met my husband in Australia. And I was, really focused on um, building myself within the education system and tracked to be principal. I was on the leadership team, total A type, driven personality. And then uh, my daughter shifted everything for me. And as soon as I had my daughter, I went through this massive spiritual awakening. And what I mean by that, because I think maybe some people don't even realize what a spiritual awakening is, um, I just started having a lot of insights coming through. People can call them downloads, you can, whatever, codes, whatever anyone wants to call it. But I was getting these insights very clearly, and they were shifting everything that I believed to be true
Mm,
very quickly. And one of them was that I wasn't supposed to go back to teaching. And so
mm,
that really shifted it a lot for me. And up until that point, I mean, I didn't even know I was going through a spiritual awakening. I was kinda like, What the fuck is this? Like, I don't even know what's going on with me." And there was a lot of confusion and, um, yeah, hope or helplessness. I just didn't know what was going on, and I didn't consider myself spiritual, up until that point. I had gone to church a little bit, but felt really lost within religion because it really didn't resonate with me. And I've shared this on social media, but it felt like everything was a lie. And my body was screaming at me like this was not for me. And so I was questioning what was going on with myself with these insights that I was getting, but I felt like I needed to follow them and felt crazy. And a lot of people thought I was crazy because I had up until that point been, you know, very driven to be a teacher. And uh, all of a sudden I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And so quit as a teacher. And I was like, okay, well, now what? And so from there, and there was a lot of trauma that happened at the same period, with trauma with my daughter's birth, just trauma of being home and not really understanding what was going on and having to look after her by myself and figure out motherhood. And there was a lot of beliefs that kind of came on, like motherhood, having a baby, you go through a portal and it opens up the subconscious mind to all of these beliefs that you've been collecting
mm,
since you were a child of what it means to be a parent. And so
mm,
they all kind of hit you in the face when you become a parent, that you didn't really even realize you had. And I think that because I had, um, done so much research and so much education within the education system and knowing how kids develop and what they need, and then being hit in the face with all these different beliefs and playing out my childhood and seeing my mother in myself, and knowing that that's not how I wanted to parent. That was a shift that was like, hey, something has to change, or I'm going to repeat the patterns that were given to me. And so this was kind of before I started doing any inner work, any kind of spiritual work, any reading of any sort. These were the realizations I was having. And so that kind of kick-started me, my like, what am I doing now? And I need to figure something out because this is not what I want. And so dove, that threw me really into learning about myself, learning about my emotions, and then learning about the subconscious mind came after that. And that's where things started to shift for me. And it changed my world. It flipped it upside down. And it really went from feeling like I was uh, floundering in motherhood to being very empowered, and not only being empowered, but being able to then give back and support other mothers to take back their power as well.
wow.
Yeah. Wow. So it's been a big journey, and there's been so much trauma that has been wrapped in it. But all of it, I can put my hand on my heart and say, all of it was there to guide me to step into the person that I now am today, and in a deep embodied way.
Mm,
And that I believe that when we can look pain in the face and move through it, we can transmute it into light.
mm,
And yeah, and that is super powerful. And that's really, I believe, how we change the world. Hmm.
mm. Well, I now see why you've chosen your path of helping other mothers, because clearly your life path took you on the road of helping children first and understanding them and their needs so deeply, and then to becoming a mother and the trauma and challenges that came with that journey, and how ultimately that led you to your subconscious mind. Um,
Mm.
it makes so much sense how you landed here.
I so I started after I quit being a teacher, I started a business called Connecting Kids Consciously, and this was in Australia where I ran in-person classes for children for social, emotional, and spiritual growth. And mothers were coming to this and staying. And the mothers I found, they were like, we are getting so much out of these sessions. Like this and what you're teaching is not only helping our children learn, it's teaching us and supporting us.
Mm,
And through that period, I had this insight that we can't actually change the world through our children if we're not supporting the mother first.
mm,
Because it's
mm,
and I mean, and fathers as well, but I think that especially in the early years, the mothers are the ones typically spending the most time with the children, and if we're not looking at our patterns and looking at what has been passed down through generations, we are going to repeat it, and so that's why it's so important and, that mothers are reclaiming our power and really coming home to ourselves so that we can then give that to our children.
mm. Wow.
Mhm.
That makes so much sense hearing you say it. And it's very counterintuitive because I think in every generation in the last 100 years or so, it's been, folks so kid focused, so child focused of like, what can I do for my kids? How can I provide more or like give them more or like put them in more programs, give them more resources so that they can have a good life. Very external focused. But what you're saying is it's the internal aspect of who I am as a mother, or as a parent, even, how that impacts the child.
Mhm. Well, monkey see, monkey do. Like, our children are not just here to listen to how what we say. They are modeling exactly how we are.
Mm,
And so it's not until we actually choose to fully live ourselves that we are giving that, But everyone will say, "I'll die for my children," but will you fully live for your children?
mm, mm,
And I think that there's so many people that are stuck in struggling. And I believe that when we can courageously go, I'm not going to pass this down. And I think that that's why parenthood is so powerful because it's the first time that there's something that's bigger than ourselves. And
mm,
that's what got me that there's something bigger than just myself that I am here for. My purpose you know, is supporting my children and the generations to come. And when you look at epigenetics, uh, these patterns have been passed down through generations. And when we choose to be a cycle breaker, we're actually shifting the DNA um, for our children. And yes, we've passed it to our children, but then when we choose a different pattern, we're giving that pattern to them. And that shifts the DNA structure of all the generations to come,
wow.
hmm which is really powerful.
That is so fascinating that literally our behavior can shift our DNA and talk about a divine opportunity or like the divinity tied up in our humanity that we can like shift on a cellular level what's happening. And for those esoteric nerds out there that know the power of DNA or how valuable it is, it's like
hmm
incredible to me that we have the ability through this kind of work to change ourselves on that level. It's really amazing, the epigenetic aspect of it.
I find it super fascinating. And the idea that, you know, I grew up with the idea that, if it's in your DNA, that's a subscribed, like a prescribed, sorry, way that's just going to happen to you. Like my father had cancer, my grandmother had cancer, and now I'm going to have cancer. But it's not like that. Genes get turned on and off,
Mhm.
and we have the power to support our children to have the genes that are going to support them best turn on and the ones that are not going to support them to be able to turn off is the it's so powerful. Yes, we have nature, but nurture is very, very powerful. And yeah.
Wow. So I would love
Mhm.
to hear in your experience of being a mom, when you started to notice those shifts occurring in real time from like realizing maybe an old pattern that you learned without realizing it in your subconscious of what it meant to be a parent and how to parent and seeing that play out in being a mom and then going on an inward journey of saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm seeing this pattern play out through my behavior. What's going on internally?" And that just share what it was like being a parent and what that journey was like in real time, realizing that you had the power to change internally.
Mm. Um, so I guess the story that's come up for me is one of my deepest trauma, which is around connection with my mother. And growing up, I just did not have any deep connection with her. And that was something that I knew that having a daughter, I wanted to make sure was not a pattern that I passed on. And when my daughter was born, I had an emergency cesarean. There was a lot of trauma there, but one of the when I looked back at that experience, the most traumatic thing that happened throughout her whole birth was her last kick. And
Mm,
the last kick, I saw it as a moment of disconnection. Like that was the last kick I got to experience with her. And I saw it through the lens of disconnection. My trauma was it was disconnection with my mother, and I saw that her last kick was what I felt the disconnection, and it was very like whenever I talked about it, I would start crying. It was very, um, it was a massive issue with it, for me, and it had a huge emotional effect on my body and stress after her birth. So I then had a second, my son, my second. I had the exact same experience. I had another traumatic birth, and the same thing. I was put under for his birth, so I wasn't even present for his birth. But the disconnection I felt, that same feeling, and so and there's a key there that it's a pattern. This pattern is felt. And
mm,
that's the subconscious mind works in patterns. And so it's not the subconscious mind is not something that's just helping you to, drive your car without thinking. It's in every aspect of your life. And so for this deep trauma, I was able to start to see that this was a pattern of this emotion was very present in my life, and I could pinpoint times where I felt this strong disconnection. And so between my son, and then my third, I started working and doing a lot of trauma work and working with my subconscious mind, and was able to do a process where I went back and in my subconscious mind, when I coach, I'm guiding my clients to go back and to pinpoint a time that they have felt this experience. And they can then be able to feel that experience completely, feel the emotion, and be able to change the belief in that moment, because the beliefs that are created in heightened emotion are then playing out in patterns, which is what the disconnection was. My subconscious mind took me to when I was born. So I was brand new baby, had just been born. And I remember the nurse pulling me away. And I had never talked to my mom about my birth. And I went and asked her, I said, like, what happened when I was born? This is what I remember. And she said, they took me away for 2 days, or took you away for 2 days, and I couldn't see you. And
wow.
because she had a traumatic experience where she almost died. And so I didn't see her for 2 days after I was born. And that disconnection pattern was from she had felt that, but that was something that she had felt also in her childhood. And this pattern has gone, I'm assuming my grandmother and beyond. And so you can see the pattern and how it plays out until someone goes, I'm not going to let this play out anymore. And so through doing my trauma work, I had my third, and the declaration, which is changing the neural pathways, changing our beliefs in the moment, was that that last kick is actually the beginning of connection with my child.
Wow.
And it shifts everything. So instead of having this massive trauma response in my body was I was able to actually change the neural pathway to choose a different belief. And then obviously from our different belief, our thoughts and then emotions and then our current circumstances are going to completely change. And so for me, my third, his birth was super empowering, super connected. And I know that's because of the work that I was able to do.
Mm. Wow. What a story of redemption to have
Mm.
underwent that twice and to have a redemptive experience. That's incredible.
Mhm. And I think it just shows the power of our subconscious mind to play out patterns, and it's not until we are connecting consciously that we can choose a new pattern.
Mm.
And so I like to explain the subconscious mind like a ship. And so we have the um the captain of the ship can see everything, and that's your conscious mind, and it gets to make decisions, and it has the power, and it's giving the subconscious mind directions. And when when the conscious mind is there, then it's in control of where the ship is going, and that's our current experiences. But if the conscious mind, if the captain is not present, then the subconscious mind is just playing out past
Mm.
patterns, past
Mm.
commands. And so when you can apply this to your regular life, and if you're not present, if you're not aware of the beliefs and the thoughts that are playing out in your subconscious mind, then the subconscious mind is just going with the past commands.
Mm.
And so it's not until we can connect consciously that that shifts everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm. And it's amazing how malleable even our greatest traumas can be. Like your what used to be your greatest trauma, you were able to reprogram that experience and it impacted a future birth.
Mhm. And you know what? It also impacted my life because when we can do our trauma work, the formula for finding your purpose is usually your your biggest trauma with your passion.
Mm.
And so connecting consciously collective is my purpose and calling here, as well as connection within my own family. But I wasn't able to birth that until I was able to do my own trauma work and remove the emotions. And when we remove the emotions and the pain that's sitting in our past experiences, we're able to turn it into light. And that in that shift is births something new for us. It births our purpose and calling.
Wow.
Mhm.
So I have a follow-up question in regards to the first two births.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know beyond the birthing process, just how you saw your trauma and disconnection playing out as a parent, or perhaps the sadness there, or whatever emotions were present in your connection with your kids. How did it impact that connection with your kids before the trauma work had been done?
Mm. I think that numbing is something that we're taught very young as a strategy for coping. And when you get to be a mom, it's part of culture. Numbing is part of culture. It's like, I'll just have another glass of wine, like, and it's actually celebrated. Like, I had friends, we would just like text each other, like, it's 4 o'clock, like, let's have our first glass, like, we're just surviving. Um, and I think that it's in, I was numbing in every way possible. Social media, there was time where I had my son, and he had he was wrapped around with so much trauma. He almost died. I wasn't present for his birth because I was put under. Like, there was just so much trauma there. I think he must have been like 6 months old, and my daughter was only 18 months older. So I had basically two under two. and they were both screaming, and I caught myself scrolling my phone, and I somehow like realized that I was sitting scrolling my phone while I had two children just screaming at me. And I think that um, this is so much more common than anyone really wants to admit.
Yeah.
We
You're not
we
the first, I bet.
mothers,
I can't
yeah,
speak from experience 'cause I don't have kids, but I bet you're not the first, and I see it all the time, so yeah.
mothers, especially if we experience trauma, if especially if we've had, births that haven't gone the way we want them to go, and then we're thrown into motherhood and we aren't having the support that we're supposed to be having, like our Western United States is just like the breeding ground of trauma with
Mm,
kids. Some women are having to go back to work at 6 weeks old, and it's just atrocious.
mm,
And
mm,
so I think that all of that trauma wrapped around with trying to figure out motherhood, and then, as I said, that portal of new beliefs that come flying in of like, I and then feeling like a failure because I'm not being a good mom if I don't do X, Y, and Z. All of it is, yeah, it's really challenging. And so, of course, mothers are finding themselves just numbing out because we don't know what else to do.
mm.
And the beliefs that are coming, you know, um, like feeling like a failure, especially when with the most important thing that we feel like we're here to do is raise our children, and then feeling like a failure. It's a lot to hold.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That is a
Mhm.
big, big feeling. I felt that not in regards to parenthood, but just feeling like a failure is a heavy, heavy feeling, and I can only
Mhm.
imagine when there's another life involved, just how much more heavy it gets. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, there is and And so numbing out is one of them, but then there's other ways that people avoid as well, and I think it's just avoiding pain. I think that that's our society is just that's what we've been taught since we were little.
Mm,
Like we just avoid pain, avoid pain, avoid pain. Don't feel your pain, suppress it. Like from a toddler onward. Children know how to manage their pain. And you see a toddler flailing around and then all of a sudden they're happy. And that's because they've just moved all the energy out of their body. And
mm,
that's how we do it. And what do? We tell the toddlers to stop stop screaming, stop, moving our body and just suppress that energy in your body.
hmm,
And so, of course, we have, a massive issue with I think, 90%, 99% of people have this issue of like holding in energy and they have all
mm,
this suppressed energy in their body, which is creating more dis-ease. And motherhood is a pressure cooker.
mm.
And we are basically being demanded to feel to
Wow.
and I think that parenthood is one of the, if not the biggest, fastest way to awaken because of it, if we choose.
Yeah, makes a lot of
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
So, so then what happened?
What happened? I Because I was such an A type, you know, perfectionist, and I'd spent my whole life putting so much effort in to just be the best and have everything perfect. And then everything started crashing down, like came crashing down on me. There has been this analogy of like juggling as a mother and, just throw another ball and throw another ball and throw another ball. And then all of a sudden, just all the balls start, falling down. And I got to that falling down part. And I think that that is one of the most sacred, powerful spots to be in. And I know that that's hard for anyone that is in that spot to hear this, but it is the dismantling of ego.
Hmm,
And in those, knees on the earth, like, I can't do this anymore, comes surrender. And that surrender is the opening of getting to know the higher power, whatever you want to call it, God, universe, source. It's it's an opening of stepping into that I can be fully divine and fully human. I can be in my messiness and I can surrender it to something higher. And that changed my life. And I think that, through so much reading, there's been so many people that have got to that breaking point, and it's in that breaking point when they finally let go that their life changes.
Mm,
And now I teach this, and, surrender and letting go is part of my connecting consciously method, manifestation method. And I will consciously let go and surrender. And there's pain there.
mm,
And I've got really good at consciously choosing to feel the pain,
mm,
because it's when I consciously choose to feel my pain that I allow God to take over and to show me what's possible and to allow the universe to just give me the miracles that I've been searching for.
mm.
Mhm.
What you shared about, like, knowing, not just like not just, like, believing, like, the critical voice, like, "I'm a failure," but, like, to, like, really feel, like, how much pain is behind that when you see, like, "Holy shit, like, I fucked things up in X, Y, or Z manner," like, actually, and it's not just up here that I know that, it's like, I feel it. Like, it reminded me of my parents when I before I went off to college. God bless them for doing this. Not every parent would have the courage to do this or the, humility to do this, but both of them came into my room, before I left for college one night, and they were very somber, and they don't normally do that, just, like, approach me and ask to talk, and, they apologized to me, and they weren't even sure what they were apologizing for, but they said, like, "Chris, we're so sorry. We feel like we failed you as parents, and we just know that we didn't do a perfect job or even the best job, or in some ways, even, like, a good job as
Yeah.
parents." And they were both so, sad and somber and, like, um yeah, it was, like, really, really, and I didn't know, the things that, like, they'd messed up in, but I felt, deficient in certain ways or, like, not, not completely held in certain ways, and so I appreciated it, and I wonder how maybe that inner realization that maybe led my parents to do that, might have been similar to what you experienced, in that time of your journey of realizing, "Holy shit, like, this is my lowest low," like, as a parent, like, this feeling of, like, whatever that feeling was, yeah. Walk us through that for you, if it was similar.
Mm. I think that when we understand the subconscious mind and that beliefs are formed, we create meaning in each and every moment.
Mm,
And the beliefs that were formed that are in the subconscious mind, if you if you believe you're a failure, you're going to see everything through the lens of failing.
mm,
And so, and that comes to identity. And so when we are unaware of the identities that we're holding and the beliefs that we're holding, we will see things through our trauma lens, which if it's through failing, then everything that we do is going to feel like a failure. And for
mm,
me, that was one of them, that like I just felt like I believed that I was failing. And it's interesting because I controlled every aspect of my life to avoid that feeling.
mm,
But underneath all of the control, underneath the perfectionism, underneath the people pleasing, all of those ways I controlled and manipulated situations and people was the belief that underneath, I was a failure.
mm,
And I tried in my, you know, pushing and pushing and pushing to make sure I wasn't failing. But the belief that was driving it was that I was a failure. And so when we can feel the pain that's around that belief of I am a failure, and connecting consciously choose a new belief.
Mm,
For example, like, you know, making mistakes is part of the human experience. Then all of a sudden, in those experiences where something goes wrong, I'm not beating myself up.
mm,
I'm allowing myself to have grace and compassion for being human.
mm,
And that is really embracing our humanness, even the messiest parts with forgiveness and compassion, and then being able to, show up differently.
mm,
The two different situations, one, if you take a situation with being a parent, yell at your kid. One, I'm a failure. I let my kid down. Like, and then it's this shame spiral. And some people's shame spirals are a lot bigger than others. Like, I can't believe that I did that. I'm going to have to make sure I never do that again. I'm going to have to do this and this and this, and I'm going to control this. I'm not going to let my kids do this because then I'll get angry and then I'll be a horrible parent. And it like eats you alive. Same situation. I yell at my kids. Oh, I'm human. I made a mistake. Hey, talk to your kids. Like, it was out of integrity for me to yell at you. And I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to control my emotions in that situation. And I'm learning, just like you are learning, to hold emotions and be able to move them in a way that doesn't hurt other people.
mm,
And really sorry. And all of a sudden, and I forgive myself. And that's something that I teach my kids, that like a part of apologizing is actually forgiving ourselves.
mm,
And when you forgive yourself, you've taken accountability and you're choosing to move forward. All of a sudden, you think about it from a vibrational and frequency state, you know, compassion, forgiveness, and moving in alignment compared to shame cycle. Shame is such a heavy, dense emotion. And the density that is being held there, and you're holding yourself there, guess what's happening? You're attracting more of the exact experience that you don't want.
mm,
And that's why I say that forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools that we can use to creating what we desire,
mm,
because we're actually choosing to move into a higher frequency.
hmm.
Hmm.
That's beautiful. Do you teach much of that, or is that a pretty big focal point in your teachings and communities?
So I have a year long container called the Limitless Motherhood container. And so half of it's education, half of it is an integration work, and then the other half is one-on-one sessions where we're looking at trauma, as well as manifestation, like focus, which is really directing energy where we want it to go through
Mhm,
visualization. And so within the Limitless Motherhood container, we do focus a lot on emotions. We focus a lot on our beliefs and really diving into doing our shadow work of what are the beliefs that we hold, and then being able to decide who we want to be, and with clarity. And that when we our self concept of ourselves is what will um, be showing out in your reality. It's from that I am statement of I am, and I am what I am. And if you believe that you are kind, and then so it is. If you believe that you're a horrible person, then so it is. And we're creating from that self concept of ourselves.
hmm.
Mhm.
I used to love, and I still do love esoteric knowledge and stuff, and it's, like, so fun
Mhm.
to learn about because it's fascinating, and there's so many just, like, theories out there, but you can just stack up all this information about, like, the mystical statement, "I am," but what you just said is so not mystical, it's just true, like, what you believe yourself to be, you are. It's like, you can have the esoteric knowledge, and that's great, and I don't mean to shit on esoteric stuff because I love it, but, um, that what you just shared is, like, so grounded and so useful and so transformative, so it's cool that
Well,
that is the approach you're taking?
I think it's really important. And that's, I've played with many names for coaching. And I think the embodiment coach, it's how do we take all of this information that's up here and and I mean, we have so much access to information, and you can just write into ChatGPT and have an instant, some kind of spiritual information about something, and you can be like, "Okay, now I know." But actually to embody it in a grounded way in your life, in all aspects of your life, is completely different. And, I think that when we live there's many people in spiritual communities that will control aspects of their life so that they can say that they, are living in peace. And that's why motherhood is so special because
Mm,
I don't have, you know, the choice to just be like, okay, you 3 children, actually, I do have the choice. I could put them in school. I homeschool my kids. I could put them in school and then have them do sport in the afternoon and then feed them food in front of a TV and send them to bed. And I think that that's something that happens a lot. But for me to be in integrity and in alignment, that means I'm homeschooling my children. I'm with them, 90% of the time, and I don't get to pick and choose. I'm holding their emotions, all of their emotions, and I'm parenting and guiding them in a way that they're not suppressing their emotions. They're
mm,
full, expression. And so if I have 3 of those powerful beings in my household and I'm holding space for them, I'm holding space for myself, I'm holding space for my husband, and we're moving through all of this, but it's not just all butterflies and peace all the time. Like, there's a lot of things that we're moving through, and I think that so many people avoid pain, and I can't handle that. I'm not gonna live in my fullness because then this is gonna happen, and that was something that I found when we went on our road trip. Traveling around the United States for a year was something that was the most uh, amazing experience that we could have ever had as a family, but also the most intense. Traveling with 3 children under the age of 7 and with a baby and, stress and being together all the time. It was another pressure cooker. But we chose to move through with pain. And in moving through with pain, we were able to experience the bliss as well, which I think is a really um, yeah, it's powerful to know that if you're gonna, want that full bliss and the best life you've ever had, you're also gonna have to have the other side of the spectrum and
mm,
be able to move through pain. Um, but I think I would never take it back.
mm.
It's yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit here because
Sorry.
no. I'm just like so many dots are connecting in what you're sharing, and they're all so good.
Mhm.
But one thing you said earlier is that motherhood is a portal, and then you talked
Mhm.
just a minute ago about spirituality and making it practical and actually useful. And that to me is a portal. Is like that is like the definition of a portal is like how do we take the information and make it integrated? And motherhood is one way of doing that, but so is like building a van and living in it. So is living in an RV for a year with kids. So is like losing a
Mhm.
parent. So is like signing up for a course where you're learning something. Like these are all things that we do with our lives and ways that we spend our time and attention or sometimes get thrown into something, and they're all access points, they're all learning points, they're all points to embody new pieces of information. And
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know if there's a question there, but it's just cool to realize that like life is spiritual inherently, and like there's not a distinction between, I used to think as a religious person that like church and prayer and like reading the Bible was like my contribution to God's well-being, like, but it's like it was like completely
Mhm.
inverted. I was separate from God, like serving God, worshiping God, and and I still do those things, but like it's just um it's all accessible right now, I guess. And like being aware, being conscious of what portals that you're in, what life is offering you to integrate. in this present moment is like that's where the real breakthroughs happen and the real integration happens is like sitting with the pain of whatever life is giving you to sit with. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so I just wanted to share that realization, or at least idea that I'm having right now about all this. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
And do you have anything to add to that? Or it's yeah.
I think it's if you choose. I
Mm,
think that, yes, all these things can be portals if you choose. If you choose to connect consciously,
mm,
then yes. But
mm,
I think that um, we're being bombarded with so much, and so many people have their nervous systems are completely out of whack
mm,
and overloaded. And when we keep avoiding, it's like almost like a snowball. And it's in that choice. Okay, I'm choose today to start to feel, to start to move consciously, to start to move with an open heart, that then all of a sudden we can then use these different experiences as a tool for awakening.
mm.
Mhm.
So it's like choosing to experience the pain and like come into contact with it.
I I think that all of it come I do a lot with heart opening, and I believe that heart is that connecting force between our humanness and our divinity. And when we avoid pain, we are putting kind of shields up, but they are actually blocks. And it's blocking us from accessing our connection with
Mm,
divine.
mm,
And when we start to take down those blocks and start to actually feel and move through pain, we're opening our heart more and more, which is actually connecting us to our divinity. And, and then from the point of view, like our heart coherence, it's the heart that is, you know, dictating our field and what we are, um, our energetic field, and then what we are attracting in our life as well. And so, I find the heart very fascinating, and I've done a lot of work with Mary Magdalene, and and she talks about this as, the connecting point. And I believe that when we start to feel our pain, that's when we can have that deeper connection with God.
mm.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, God,
Mhm.
I pray for me to have an open heart and feel my pain more more today than I was willing to yesterday.
And I think, people can do their work by themselves, but when you have a trained practitioner that is holding space for you
Mm,
to feel pain, and that's what I do. I hold space for people to move through the most painful things. And, I've moved through, rape. I've moved through, like, there's been so many really extreme pains, but then also the tiny pains. You talk about big T trauma, but little T trauma of, like, being made fun of in class. And these tiny pains that we just shove down, we don't even allow ourselves, like it was nothing, and we say it's nothing, but our sensitivity is actually, we're gaslighting ourselves. And so when we actually go, whoa, that did hurt, um, we're building self trust with ourselves, and we're starting to allow our heart to be a little bit more open.
mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I loved what you said about having someone to guide you through that pain so that it's not unbearable and also to witness the pain. I think it's so helpful to have someone to just be present so that you're not alone in the pain.
Mhm.
Can you share a little bit about some people you've worked with and um, in whatever way that you feel is comfortable to share some of the impact that working together has had for them?
Mhm. Um, I had I a mother who had traumatic birth, and she had she really wanted to have an empowered birth. And so we worked together and through her pregnancy, and she had the most magical experience. So to go from an experience that felt like it was completely out of her control, and it all happened to her, to then be able to step into the most empowered birth and magical experience was something that really was, um, yeah, it was an honor to be able to witness her and see that creation. I think that most of the most of the transformations have been through relationships and how my clients have seen the world and seen themselves. And, you know, I think that just even allowing ourselves to not feel like a failure and to give ourselves compassion in a situation, that that is massive transformation for so many people, to not have that voice in your head that's constantly beating yourself up, to have a compassionate voice in your head instead of one that is, tearing you up, you apart. And I think, relationships being saved, I am, off the top of my head, yeah, I think that, being able to create different things in their life, being able to start a business, being able to use their voice to be an advocate for their children, to just being empowered in motherhood. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
so many.
Hmm. Is there a sense of wholeness that is restored or felt after working together, I would imagine?
That's something that I really feel passionate about. There is within the spiritual communities talking about trauma, they talk about healing, and that's something that I really feel is not helpful for talking about trauma, because I don't believe that anyone is ever broken.
Mm,
I believe that this trauma is put on our path to support us to move back home within ourselves. And for for clients as well as myself doing this type of work, what happens is you start to see that you created all of it. And that's the most powerful aspect, because when you can see that your beliefs have created even the most traumatic experiences, then you can actually have the power to shift it as well.
mm,
So what I do with clients is when they've had it, we go back into to experiences that have happened, and their subconscious mind is guiding always. It's not something that I'm doing to clients. And when we go back, we move through the whole experience, and I'm listening for what they're saying and listening to the beliefs that they're holding in that moment. And what is very interesting is the beliefs, we go through it afterwards and we go, which of these beliefs do you believe to be true now? And most often, all of the beliefs, when we first start working together, all of the beliefs that were true in that traumatic experience, even if it's from a very young age, are playing out now in their life.
hmm,
And so to be able to see the patterns, um, you start to go, I'm creating these experiences in my life
hmm,
through the beliefs that I were formed in trauma, that I created meaning from. And with that, it's very empowering because I can actually choose a new path. I talk about, you know, choosing a new path. I talk about the neural pathways in our mind are like roads. And when you have a belief that was formed in trauma that's been playing out for maybe your whole life, it's like a, 6-lane highway going fast. And it's really easy to get pulled, most of the time subconsciously without any conscious awareness on this path. And then through moving the emotion from the trauma, it creates awareness of, oh, that's a belief that's been playing out. And with awareness and connecting consciously, we can then start to create a dirt path. And we start to create that dirt path, and connecting consciously, we can choose to go on that dirt path instead of taking the highway. And slowly by slowly, we're choosing that new path, and that new path is turning into a road and then a highway. And through neural pruning, that other road is going to then fall, and then get taken back into nature with trees and, plants growing on it.
Mm.
And so I do believe that we're, just because we've done the trauma work doesn't mean you're not going to get pulled back on that old road. But through practice and through awareness, we can then choose that new path more and more, which transforms our life.
Mm. That's so cool.
Mhm.
I just got this Kali necklace, and I have to plug it for the esoteric nerds who are out there and listening. It's like she like destroys and then creates space for new stuff to be birthed and whatnot. And
Mhm.
it's like the snake eating its tail. I wanted that ring too. I'm like, dude, that's so cool. That's like the essence of life. And what you just shared is like a great, like, grounded example of that, how in our neural pathways we can rewrite some of these experiences in real time, and stop
Mhm.
referencing past experiences to interpret our present experiences. That's like a perfect example, really grounded example of it. I love it.
Yes. And seeing those, this is for clients as well as myself, but to see the miracles, and a miracle is only the limit of what we believe is possible. That's not actually, anything limitless. We have limitless possibilities, but a miracle is only the cap of what we put on ourselves. But when we are choosing that new pathway, that's in real time. That's when we're seeing the miracles presented in our life.
Mm,
And many people will be like, Gwen, like you just have unicorns up your ass. And I'm like, well, no, this isn't just a coincidence that this happened. This happens regularly every day in my life, that I'm having these miracles be presented because of the work that I've done and the beliefs that I'm choosing to
mm.
energize. Hmm.
Yeah. And going back to the like, we're talking about manifestation right now, and like how the subconscious is the agent that manifests things. It's like we can pray consciously, but that's like 10% of our existence, like you said, like, is the conscious part. The 90% is the iceberg of the subconscious. That's praying all the time. And it's like, what's that prayer? Is it I hate myself? Is it like my life is gonna suck? And like, um, yeah, yeah. I forgot my point. I was gonna say something about that, but yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Hmm. You think about, I, when I was a teacher, I had the same route and I drove home on the same route every day. And there'd be many days that I'd be like, oh, I need to go to the shop, but I'd get home and I completely forgot to go to the shop. And it's because the subconscious mind is just taking you for a ride. There's some, and there is different like levels too. Like, yes, maybe I forgot to go to the shop, but I remember like driving home. And there's other days that I'd be like, I don't even remember how I got home.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I was not present. And so it's like that, but in every aspect of your life, you look at your relationships, how you handle stress, how you handle arguments, how you handle when, situations don't go as planned. All of those are patterns. You hear people like, why does it the same stuff happen? Like I can't find a relationship where this doesn't happen. Well, it's because it's a pattern. It's
Mm,
because your subconscious is playing out patterns in your life. And until you choose to rewrite it, it will continue to be played out. Doesn't matter who you're going to pick as you're in your relationship, it's going to play out.
mm,
And so that's, when we can connect consciously and choose to feel the pain and gain awareness of the beliefs, we can go, oh, I can see that this is a belief. This is
mm,
just a story that's playing out, and it's not the actual truth. And a strategy that I teach clients is that we can actually use that to shine light on what we want to create instead. So, if we are having this really strong belief that, no one likes me, I'm a burden, say, you can shine light on that by going, no, like this person actually told me that they really appreciate my presence, or that I know that that belief's not true because of this. And if we can pull ourselves out of that pattern loop by shining light on it, then it will help us to then be able to choose that other pathway instead. Because when
Mm,
we're first starting to do this work, it can be really overwhelming. And these beliefs feel like such a truth in our body.
mm,
And so being able to almost like collect evidence of how it's not true, or what is true instead. If you want that, that people enjoy my presence, and collect evidence on that, so that when the belief of I'm a burden comes up and you're feeling it so present in your body, you can actually start to talk to yourself and tell yourself, no, this isn't true. And these are the reasons why.
mm.
Mhm.
Gosh, that's exciting. I also want to add, for those of y'all who have any spiritual or religious tradition out there who believe in a higher power or that influences the external world, or if you believe in miracles, um, or just a higher power in general. I haven't always been there. I've been an atheist for a good part of my life, or just agnostic and unsure about it. So, cheers if that's you. But like lately, I've been like totally um, living in the belief of like knowing that, yeah, the external world organizes itself around our belief systems and our, and conscious and unconscious. And quantum physics, which is the angle that I've really enjoyed learning about through people like Jesse Mitchell's and a couple other YouTube channels who bring on great physicists and like ufologists and stuff who talk about kind of obscure topics about consciousness and how these different scientific theories of how our reality is not a physical reality, although there is a physical component to it. That's why exist as Chris, but it's really a
Okay.
non-physical experience we're having, that is created mentally first. Which is to say, that's what the ether is. That's what like the spiritual dimension is like, the Platonic realms, as Plato talked about, is like the realms of belief and whatnot. Um, and it forms the physical. And so and call it the divine or whatever, but like God, whatever your concept of that is, source, whatever, like that's the water that we're swimming in. And so that stuff, that thing responds when we put the signal of belief or intention or thought or unintention, then that comes true as well. Those subconscious neural pathways that are just programmed into us, that are always running, that are trauma based, also come back to fruition. And so I now believe that the external world is actively influencing and responding to our requests, even the unbeknownst requests that we're making, through our beliefs. But yeah, that's really transformed my understanding of faith, because I really now believe that my thoughts, every thought, every action is a prayer, and the external world, God, that the part that I am not, like I know I'm divine in some ways, but I'm definitely not divine in other ways. But the external world, God, um, with all of the craziness that's out in the world too, that responds to what I put out there. And it'll orchestrate synchronicities and really cool connections, that are just like life changing and powerful and inspiring. It's like all that stuff can come into our lives when we allow it to and when we choose for it to. But it takes meeting the pain and meeting all that stuff that you've just so beautifully talked about. So, yeah, I just wanted to add that in, that it's not just a perspective shift. Like, yes, it's a perspective shift and it's an internal rewiring, but it's also like an invitation for God and for whatever you believe in to respond to your new programming.
Mhm. Definitely. Definitely. It's exciting. I hope that listeners are feel empowered, that yeah, There's limitless possibilities out there, and we get to choose what we're aligning to.
Mm.
Mhm. Definitely.
Well, I want to talk for hours more, but I also know that if we did that, then probably our drop off rate would be insane. So, in the interest of that not happening, I would love to just invite any last thoughts or reflections or additions that, yeah, feel pertinent to this conversation. Um, yeah, to close out with ideas and also just an invitation for people to engage more with you and your work.
Mhm. Well, people can find me on Instagram at connectingconsciously.co, and I hope to be more present there. I also, if you can find you can subscribe to my email list, which I do send out regularly as well through Instagram. And if you have any questions, you can contact me. My email address is info at connectingconsciouslycollective.com. And yeah, I'm here for the awakening. I'm here to uh, be a guide to support people to come home to themselves and to really know the truth that they are perfect as they are. And yeah, I'm excited for the times that we're in right now, and to give people hope that as the world seems to be crumbling, it's an invitation for us to reclaim our power and, yeah, and start to create the world that we really want to live in.
Mm. Woo! Cheers to that.
Yes, cheers to that. Yes. Hmm.
Well, oh yeah, and there was another book that you recommended. I posted like like a reel the other day where I was reading like snippets from a book. So, and it was like manifestation related, and I wasn't expecting that, and so I was like making fun of it because like the quintessential spiritual thing is like manifestation, like create your own reality or whatever, and it's like this vague thing. But
Hmm.
obviously, this conversation like gave so much like meat to that idea. But in the reel, I was like kind of shitting on like this, vague idea of manifestation. And you recommended a book, which I so appreciate because like I want to learn about what we just talked about in a really practical way. Um, so what was the name of that book? And yeah, what would you recommend?
So,
Yeah.
so I just want to say before that there is so much garbage in the spiritual community, especially spirituality.
Yeah.
And so I think that people start going like, this is garbage. Like we want something deeper and more true. And they go searching. And I think that that then pushes them over to the other side of the spectrum where they're going back to religion,
Hmm.
or going to religion if they haven't been religious in the past. And so I think that finding truth is so important. And Dr. Joseph Murphy is a book author, sorry, that his work has been transformational in my life, really grounded. And he actually blends a lot of the things that are being put out in the spiritual communities now with pop spirituality, and the truth of religion and what Jesus was saying. And it's a really powerful book of
Mm.
understanding the subconscious mind, understanding our beliefs, understanding the creative process. And it is one of the books that really underpins the work that I do. So, yeah, I recommend it to anyone. It's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And yeah, go and read it.
Yeah. Go and read the book. We might
Go
be
and read
starting a
it.
book club on it. If not both of us, definitely me. And yeah, I'm just super excited to have learned so much from this conversation and to have stuff to
Mm.
dive into myself. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. It's been an honor to be here. You are such a light. I have enjoyed just your presence and your dedication to bringing truth to the world. And so, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. That means a lot. Truly. It's good to be back,
Yeah.
baby. We're doing it.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
We're so back. Thank you. All right. Well, I'll see you in the creator calls. And yeah, thanks again.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.